You've seen them, right? The screenshots, the posts all over social media. People claiming they built an entire startup in a single weekend using something they call vibe coding.
But here's the real question. Is this for real? Can you actually ship a serious business this way? Or is it all just hype?
I mean, you see claims like this one popping up everywhere. It's this promise of going from just an idea to a working product at lightning speed.
And look, it's not just some vague claim. We've got specific examples. Take this one, Refetch, a whole app reportedly built in just 15 hours. 15!
Okay, so let's get into it. In this explainer, we're going to break down these real-world examples. We'll see what actually works, where this whole approach kind of falls apart, and figure out when vibe coding is really enough to launch a serious startup.
All right, first things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. What even is vibe coding?
Okay, here's the short version. It's basically you building software by just describing what you want, in plain English. And then you let AI and these super high-level tools handle most of the nitty-gritty code for you.
So to get a better picture, think about where it fits in. On one hand, you've got traditional coding, where you're writing every single line yourself. On the other, you have no code, which is all about dragging and dropping. Vibe coding? It's this really interesting middle ground. You're the director, guiding the process with your ideas, and the AI, well, it's like your super fast junior developer, just cranking out the code.
Okay, so we've got the definition down. Now for the fun part. Let's look at the real world. Can this approach actually take you from a minimum viable product all the way to real revenue?
So, let's start with case number 1, Refetch. It's an open-source alternative to Hacker News, a site many of you probably know.
And here it is, the number that got everyone talking. 15 hours. Think about that, for a working public product that people can go and use right now. It's just incredible. The person who built it basically used AI tools to spin up the backend, the user login stuff, and the basic interface, which meant they could focus on the big picture, the idea and the feel of the app.
So what does this teach us? The big lesson from Refetch is that, vibe coding can absolutely slash your build time. We're talking about going from weeks or months down to a weekend. It proves you can ship something real super fast. But, and this is a big but, it doesn't necessarily prove you've built a scalable, long-term company. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, so building a cool project fast? Check. But can you actually make money doing this? That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, that brings us to our next case, CreatorHunter. This is a real SaaS product, software as a service.
And this is where things get really interesting. We're not just talking about a cool demo anymore. CreatorHunter is often held up as a prime example of a vibe-coded success story, with some reports throwing around revenue numbers as high as $30,000.
So how'd they do it? Well, the core product does things that AI is getting really good at. Stuff like automatically pulling creator data from social media, letting you filter it, and then showing it all on a nice, clean dashboard. So the lesson here? It proves you can get to real, paying customers if your idea is focused. But here's the catch. Once things get more complex, like if you need some weird custom logic or have to connect to an old, obscure system the AI has never heard of, that's when the need for more traditional engineering starts to creep back in.
All right, so we've seen a super fast MVP, and we've seen a product that's actually making money. Let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture, the platforms that are making this whole thing happen. I'm talking about companies like Lovable, Cursor, and Bolt. These guys are raising serious cash. Why? Because they're building the very tools that power this whole vibe coding movement. This isn't just a few hackers in their garage anymore. This is a major industry shift.
And the numbers? They're honestly staggering. For instance, Bolt, a company in this space, reportedly hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue in its first week. This isn't a fad. Investors and users are betting big that this is the future.
So if we tie all these stories together, what's the big takeaway? I think it boils down to 3 things. 1, AI just massively shrinks the time it takes to build stuff. 2, our jobs, the human's job, shifts. We're not sweating over semicolons anymore. We're focused on the product, on the strategy. And 3, vibe coding is an absolute killer for specific things, like getting an MVP out the door, building internal tools, or creating those focused SaaS products we talked about.
Which brings me to a really helpful way to think about all this. It's a mental model I like to call the engine versus the whole car. Is this technology the entire vehicle, or is it just one really important part?
Okay, let's break it down. When is vibe coding enough? Well, it's probably your go-to when you're just trying to validate an idea.
Or when your app is basically a collection of forms and lists, and you're okay with a few rough edges at the start. Now, when do you need to call in the traditional engineers? That's when you have crazy performance needs, when security and uptime are absolutely non-negotiable, or when you're building some deep, complex infrastructure, not just the pretty front end.
And really, that's the key. Vibe coding is the accelerator. It gets you from 0 to 60 faster than anything we've ever seen before. But for the long, winding, complex journey of building a real company, you're still going to need the rest of the car. You need that solid frame of product strategy, and eventually, you'll need the reliable, fine-tuned engine of real engineering.
So let's go all the way back to our first question and answer it head-on. Can you ship a real startup with only vibe coding? The answer is yes, with a caveat. Yes, you absolutely can, especially if your goal is just to get started fast, to validate your idea, get feedback from real users, and maybe even get those first few dollars in the door.
Think of it this way. It's the on-ramp that gets you onto the highway at full speed. It's just not the whole car for the entire road trip. So with that in mind, what's the next big AI startup question you want us to break down and simplify for you? Let us know.